you. Sorry for that. So, did we hear the punchline? Do we need to do that before we start?
The video was on, and unfortunately, everybody saw it, and he got fired.
Sorry, I didn't. Not only did I destroy the sound, I also destroyed your jokes. Okay, Marco, so here we go.
I'll wait till you sing to me like water. I'll wait and dive into the shallows. I can't wait till I hear the sound of London touching the everlasting water.
Yes.
Hey,
So I'm Marco, born and based in Helsinki, and I've released 4 albums under the name of Husky Rescue. And some of my music has been placed in TV series already. For example, The Sopranos, and it was the Old School series on Warner Brothers, One Tree Hill, and Lovesick on Netflix. And I've run my own small audio production company called El Camino Helsinki for around 15 years. And we've done a lot of some really successful advert projects, which some of them we've been awarded in some of these advertising festivals like Cannes Lions, and now I'm really working on some sort of shift. I've been writing like for maybe 20 projects, like films and documentaries and short films, and I'm about to release some new music April 2021, next April. And I'm really looking forward to kind of meet some really good people, and like some creative minds, and I was just thinking like what's the good project, and I think it's where the means of storytelling, including music also, and where the storytelling and emotion come together as whole, and that's always been something that I'd like to achieve, but also in the future too. And I think my sort of dream project would be write music for some sort of quirky horror episode of future Black Mirror for Netflix. Yeah, that's pretty much for tonight. Thanks.
Thanks, Marco. I will start off the feedback portion, and I'll let Demir and Jeff jump in when they're ready. I know I had a chance to meet you during Music Finland last year, and I don't know if Jeff, if you met Marco when we were part of that conference, but I remember really liking you know, your music and kind of what you brought to the table as far as your background. For me, this music presentation was a bit off the mark of what the point of this kind of conference is about, as far as music for film and television. You know, leading with something with vocals is song driven, and that would obviously be a sync kind of, you know, songwriter issue. Sometimes vocals are obviously used in score, but pitching songs to people that work in underscore, you know, kind of scenarios, it just throws us off balance, because it's just like, well, this guy doesn't quite know what he's pitching for. So I would definitely recommend you focus on more instrumental-led presentations when you present music to in a film composer setting. Secondly, I know Katarina gave you a little shout out in the chat. Yeah, you have a great music production company in Helsinki, and you called it a little small thing. So it's just, I think it's important to express kind of, you definitely talked about your accomplishments and your syncs and whatnot in the past. But again, that comes from, I think, more of your songwriting background in Husky Rescue, and we're here to learn about you as a composer. So I just want you to focus, narrow your pitch in more on underscore and instrumental, and really lean in on your desire to score to picture, and not so much about syncing your songs to picture, because that's less exciting for this context. For the other parts of the conference, absolutely. I think for this one though, just so everybody is aware, this is not a song syncing portion of the mission. This is all about people who want to write original music to picture. And I'll let Demir and Jeff jump in whenever they'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we did get to meet Marco last year in much more enjoyable settings. And you know, so this was round two of me hearing about you. And Chandler's right. You know, it was more about what you've done with the band. I'm an agent for film and TV composers. I don't rep bands. I don't necessarily, my focus isn't, you know, I mean, that's cool, the Husky Rescue stuff and the, you know, One Tree Hill and the shows that were licensed, you know, I mean, but that's not what I do. So that kind of stuff, you know, while it's cool, you know, and I watched those shows when I was younger. I mean, that's cool to at least, you know, I mean, to associate with something. You know, so I think your presentation has to be more about you as an artist now. You know, I mean, obviously you know how to record vocals, and that's a unique skill that not a lot of composers do. So, you know, maybe your next pitch, you know, can be something that does, you know, I watched 3 projects over the weekend, 3 films that really uniquely used vocals, you know, one being the movie Emma, that Focus movie that Isabel Waller-Bridge, you know, I mean, the vocals were really uniquely used. I mean, I won't tell you my opinion of the movie because this is being recorded, but I did really like the vocals. But so, you know, I think you know how to do that from your band days. So really take advantage of that, and if there's a way to weave that into who you are as an artist / composer now, would really, I think, help define who you are and make you unique in this landscape of everybody wanting to write music for film and TV right now. You mentioned your dream project was to write for an episode of Black Mirror, but you didn't tell us why. Mm-hmm. And that was really important. You know, like, who doesn't want to write for an episode of Black Mirror? But what about it, and why would you be the person? Like, if you were my client and you told me, oh, my dream project is to write for Black Mirror, I'd go, what episode got you excited? What director got you excited? Like, what is it about that show that makes you, you know, I mean, when the music supervisor comes to me and asks me about, you know, composers for Black Mirror, why would I put you up for it other than like, oh, this is his dream job? So, you know, support that a little bit more, you know, work on that a little bit more. But I mean, that was a dark piece of music to start our session with, which I dug, you know, but I want to hear more of who you are as a composer.
Thank you.
I would second everything said so far. First, I will preface it with saying you obviously know what you're doing. It's great stuff. It's well produced. It's just solid. So that is not an issue, right? I think for you and for pretty much everybody else whose works I've previewed and the way things are presented, and I think Jeff and Chandler have mentioned in this, the aspect of focusing the energy and the focus of the listener is super important. So obviously you're proud and you want to put your best works out there, but I think there's a great value to focusing only specific kind of works in presenting it to people who need to hear it, because all they want to hear is, you know, what's in it for me, right? So the film and TV people, they want to know, can you score, you know, an episode of a show? And, you know, that might involve vocals, but for the most part it wouldn't. So I would agree with them. I wouldn't push things with vocals in there, no matter how good they are. I would save it for a separate presentation. The one big thing, and this will probably come up many times, to me is this. You're great. Everybody on the panel is great. You guys can do it. These days, everybody can make good music, right? What makes your music stand out? How is it different from everybody else? That is the big thing. You know, I see a lot of demo reels that are showing a wide range of options, of styles, of music, which is great. But each one of those, to me, would need to have your personal touch, right? And what that is, it's a journey. it's a decision to make, you know, basically doing things not to please other people, but deciding what is it that you have to say and focusing on that. This down the line will attract the right kind of people you should be working with. And that's who you're going to be working with. I have spoken. I've been watching Mandalorian with my kids, and there's a great character in there, and he finishes his outlines with "I have spoken." So I have spoken.
Yeah.
This be the way.
Yes, and just to reflect we did a lot of comment on your music presentation, but yeah, and on your personal presentation, obviously, you're the first one up, so everyone's a bit shaky in the beginning. Yeah, I'm sure as we get to the end, everyone will feel a bit more confident at speaking in front of people. But obviously, I think you're probably one of the most confident composers I've met in this kind of circle of Nordic composers. So make sure that comes across in your, you know, presentation of yourself. And going back on Black Mirror really quickly, I love hearing that you want to score an episode of Black Mirror. To me, the scope was too narrow. I would like to hear just a few more ideas. Like you want to score an episode of Black Mirror, you want to work with this director, Alex Garland, I'll throw out, just, you know, whatever. You know, I would like to just hear a little bit more about the areas you're really interested in going into. And obviously that will be catered to who you're pitching to. Obviously, if you're talking to Netflix, you want to talk about Netflix properties that they do and whatnot. But I think I would just do the research as far as what you are interested in, and just be a bit more broad in that sense, because to me, one episode of Black Mirror is too narrow for me to be like, well, what else does he want to do? And I think that's it.
Perfect.
Yeah, you get a clap. No, there you go.
Thanks, Marco, for being the first one up. And I write some notes, and I think there will be some general notes that, you know, I want to give at the end. And next up is Arto Eriksson. I hope I'll make it work with the sound now.
shall I just begin?
Yes, please.
My name is Arthur Louis Eriksen. I'm 22 years old, residing in Copenhagen. I'm a newly composer and producer and multi-instrumentalist. I've been releasing 4 albums in my own name, solo piano and electronic stuff, and also 5 albums with various indie rock bands. But my main dream is to become a film composer. This last year, I've really begun making music for theater and film. Notably, I've been an assistant composer on the new Danish Netflix series called Equinox, and some Danish radio series called Herrens Veje. And I've also been performing and composing at the Danish Royal Theatre with a play called Like Brothers. I really seek inspiration in my roots as a Turkish and Danish person. I've been traveling a lot to Istanbul, playing, the frame drums and the violin from in the Turkish style. I'm an educated drummer and vibraphonist, and I kind of take inspiration from the folk instruments, but I'm also an electronic DJ and producer. So I have always been having fun with the modular synthesizers and stuff like that. I would like to work on series like Fargo, because it's very non-compromising music, and I really enjoy a lot of aspects of music, but I think you could really hear a silver lining. No, not a silver lining. You could you can hear me in my music. I think so. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for sharing and all that. I guess I'll start us off. On your presentation, one thing I wanted to ask really quickly, you said that you were an assistant on the Netflix series Equinox. In your application, you said you were the co-composer of Equinox. So are you the co-composer or the assistant?
I'm not the co-composer. I'm ghost composing. It was a mistake.
Yes. No, I understand. Yeah, absolutely. I just definitely would recommend not to lie about those kind of things in your application and process, because when you're presenting yourself as a co-composer of a series, people might take your word out. They might look into it, but they might take your word for it. And then when they hear that you're an assistant, it puts you in a much different light. So that was a bit of a jarring revelation to me, because I remember your application, and then hearing that you're now a ghostwriter on it, I would definitely correct that on your application. It's okay. Secondly, the one thing I would encourage you to really think about is why you want to work in film and television. You mentioned that you did all these albums, and that's obviously great work, because I was listening to it. And then as you want to transition into film, television, and visual media, other than hearing that you want to work on a project where your music's uncompromised, I didn't get a sense that you wanted to work with filmmakers and that you wanted to provide music for a picture. Like, to me, your presentation came off that you were just mainly interested in writing music the way that you want, and you want it in picture. So I would think about how you want to collaborate with film musics and compromise with filmmakers, rather than write uncompromised music. Because as somebody who's listening to this, I would think, well, this person doesn't want to work with me on my vision of how I want to write this or how I want to make this film. He only wants to write music his way, and it's or the highway, as they say, as we say here in America. So I would think about adjusting your presentation a little bit more about collaboration and how you want to be a part of a team. If this is what you want to do, obviously this is also an experience for people to understand a bit more about how we work on our side of the industry. So obviously you could come away from this whole conference and be like, okay, I'm not going to work in film and TV, which is fine. The music for me was good. It was a little too many different styles, but I loved the Turkish influence. I really like to hear that you want to explore that Turkish heritage a lot more in your music. So I really look forward to hearing where you go in that direction, because I think to me, it's a strong element of who you are and how it can be applied to music, and it can make you really stand out as a composer. And I'll let Damir or Jeff jump in.
Yeah, I'll jump in and let Damir be the final voice of confidence. I mean, what was cool about that is that you have a knowledge of unique instruments, which is, you know, something that we get asked about. You know, I mean, right now, I mean, people are having a hard time sometimes describing exactly what they want, you know, in terms of, you know, I mean, like ethnic gets used a whole lot. You know, and so I'm always like, what does that mean? You know, and the fact that you have an understanding and a knowledge of how to play some of those European and you know, I mean, non-American instruments is something, you know, I think that people are looking for right now to make their scores. Yeah, I keep using the word unique, but that's what every filmmaker doesn't want their project to sound generic, you know. I mean, which is a really cool thing, and I think you have, you know, a skill set that gets to make the music that you are writing, you know, different than, you know, and honestly, what we as an agency look for as well. Like I mean, the music has to come first, and if it's something that is, you know, that we've heard before, it just feels, you know, recycled or something that feels more traditional, you know, I mean, that's not necessarily what catches my ear. So, I mean, in listening to your music, I mean, I did, you know, I mean, there were bits of music that really stood out to me because of that unique instrumentation. Yeah, Chandler's right about the credits. Just be careful on that, you know, especially if, you know, I mean, sometimes a lot of these groups, you know, I mean, do get, you know, if you're ever part of something, you know, somebody from Netflix might show up and, you know, might be like, you know, I don't know about that. So just be, you know, I mean, and I've seen composers get slapped down here in Hollywood, people who've said, you know, I mean, kind of over exaggerated, and then it does pop up and it does come bite you in the butt. But yeah, I mean, I if this is something you really want to do, you know, I mean, I would do a whole lot more reading and educating yourself on what it takes and that kind of thing. You know, I mean, I feel a lot of people go, this is what I want to do, and then they kind of learn the nuts and bolts of it, and it's not a cakewalk all the time. So you know, I would really put a lot of time on educating yourself about the whole process.
The voice of reason at the end, the voice of confidence. Really nice stuff, man. Competent, solid, you know, and it comes through even through my little iPad speakers. With everything Chandler and Jeff mentioned, my first thought was like, ooh, some interesting, cool sounds at the opening of your presentation. And then by the time the ethnic parts started playing, that was starting to get watered down. I am just personally a believer in focusing on one thing and having that one thing. If there's two sides of you, the electronic new sounds, new sonic adventures part, and then the, you know, ethnic background, Turkish background, which is obviously great and strong and important with you, I would separate those things. I wouldn't bunch them together. I see, you know, that at least here in Hollywood, there's composers who are really good craftsmen, people who can do a lot of different things, right? And there's certainly a place for people like that here. But for something like that, you would probably need to be around here. And then there's people who just are attractive to filmmakers because they come across their name listening to music on Apple Music or Spotify or any of these places. They're brands, you know, and you should think, do you want to be everything to everybody, or do you want to be a brand? And having a brand means making some choices and deciding what is it that you want people to know you by, and crafting that.
Thanks so much.
Great work, Arto. And up next is Roy.
Hi all, I'm Roy Wested from Oslo, Norway. Like I said earlier, I'm originally from the western coast, up in the middle of Norway. I moved to Oslo like 20 years ago to pursue music. I'm currently working out of my cabin way up in the mountains, and you gotta excuse me if you hear any kids in the background. They don't want to sleep, so if you hear them, I'm sorry about that. Anyway, so I have a background in playing guitar in a few rock bands, but I found out I wasn't really cut out for the rock and roll lifestyle. So I've been working full time as a film composer for like 12 years now, I think. Yeah, 12 years. I started out in 2008 writing music for large events such as kickoffs, expos, and product launches, and later I moved on to writing for commercials and TV shows, and later feature films. So it's been quite a journey. In 2014, I won Gullruten, which kind of translates to the sort of Norwegian Emmy for best score for a television series. And the feature film Hunting Flies, which I composed and performed most of the instruments on, was shortlisted for the Academy Awards and also nominated for the Nordic Council Film Prize in 2016. And I grew up listening to the scores of, you know, Michael Kamen, John Williams, Alan Silvestri, and all those titans. So I've always been very melody and theme driven in my work. And it's where I spend a lot of time when scoring, just looking for that something that will make the audience really connect emotionally to the story and characters. And hopefully they'll be humming some of the themes when walking out of the theater. Because if I don't feel anything myself when I write the music, how can I expect anyone else to feel anything? So right now I'm in the preliminary scoring phase of a primetime documentary series on espionage for the biggest broadcaster in Norway. And next year I will be scoring a sci-fi comedy for one of the large streaming platforms. And I also have 3 months of paternity leave in there as well. So I think 2021 is going to be a nice and busy year, hopefully a bit better than 2020. So anyways, I'm still available for more projects. So call me if you need some orchestral theme-driven scores for your series or feature.
Cool, thank you so much. I remember from your application that you definitely are a film composer. The music is very much film music driven, and I can hear your influences in your music. So I really appreciate kind of what you presented for us, and I like the contrast with what we've heard so far, because I think it's important for everybody to hear all the different styles of music that exist in our world. To me, I think your presentation of music and yourself is pretty solid. You have a pretty strong sense of yourself, your accomplishments, and your accolades and all that sort of stuff. So I don't really have a lot of feedback to give on this one. I'm gonna let Jeff and Damir jump in and say what they think. But to me, I thought it was great. I got a good sense of kind of what you can do, what you're interested in. Just note that when you say orchestrally driven projects, which I totally love as a listener, those are few and far between as far as budgets for orchestral sessions. So maybe also think about something that might be more chamber style, or something that when you're pitching to somebody that is doing an indie feature or something that's not a studio feature, what they might hear orchestral and then might think we don't have the budget for this. So just kind of keep that a little bit in mind. But I think Jeff and Damir know way more about that than me, so I'll let them speak.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah, we'll just keep this order going. And I have been doing, luckily I was sent over the brochure, so I've got all your bios and your website, and so I'm able to look at that and check things out while I'm listening. And great website. This little description that which when you go in for meetings with whoever, time is a very valuable thing, and so to keep it concise and you're only basically, a little secret is that even if somebody said, "Oh yeah, I spent a lot of time with your music," blah 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 blah, most likely it was while you were sitting in the front office room before you go into somebody's last minute scrambling to listen. It's just it's just a lot of how it is. And something, I sorry to go back to somebody, but Ardo, I wanted to just, with your reel, I wanted to just suggest maybe even, if you're able to get a landing page, and you can keep your composer reel on your landing page. You don't have to have a fully built out website, but which is nice. But as you're building things, sorry to jump back to somebody else while we're talking about you, but just something to, something that I meant to say is that, yesterday YouTube was down, for example. So if somebody doesn't have a place to go listen to your music, they can't go and listen to it. At least YouTube was down here in the US. So, you wouldn't have even had access to the reel. So if you have it double places, as you looked, Roy's got it on, there's Spotify, there's listening on his homepage, there's SoundCloud, there's multiple places to go just in case. So that's the kind of thing that I look for in a composer, somebody that has done, when we're an agency that in order to join the roster at Craft Angle, we're not a huge career starting place. we're very much you have something really good and we can make it explode. Like we can blast out of there, but there's got to be something there, and there's so much that composers can do on their own, you know. I mean, and stuff that you have to do, you know. I mean, if you go back and you look at, you know, the greats that you mentioned, go back and look at like Silvestri's like first few films. I mean, he wasn't doing Back to the Future straight out the gate, you know, like it was years later, you know. I mean, we signed Junkie XL, Tom Holkenborg, and if you go back and you look at like his original movies, or Johan Johansson, you look at his original films, you're just like, what are these movies, you know? I mean, and a lot of people go like, oh yeah, his first movie was Prisoners, you know, and it's like, oh, that's the first movie you heard, you know, that's the first film score that you may have heard, but look at all these other projects that they did. So all this, you know, so what you've done up until now, I mean, in building like this website and making yourself look really polished is really important, and I applaud you for that.
Thanks.
Your music, you know, I mean, I really enjoyed it. It made me want to hear more. It was a nice contrast to what, you know, I mean, what I think a lot of people here in Hollywood call, you know, I mean, are having their mind of the Scandinavian composers, that you only do dark music because you're always indoors and it's dark and it's cold and that kind of thing, you know. And I think that comes with the territory, you know. And of course, you know, y'all are good at writing that kind of music, and you know, those are the quote unquote, you know, easy expected projects. But it's nice to contrast that with the other stuff in your reel. So that was nice. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Thanks.
Roy, great stuff. You're a pro. I mean, you know, you've obviously been doing this for a while, and you know what you're doing. So
thanks.
That's the easy part, right? To me, it seems like you are trying to get to the next level. So what is that next level? Is it bigger projects where you are in Norway, in Europe, or is it bigger projects here in the States? You know, and a lot of this, or at least part of it, doesn't necessarily have to do with the music, because you have that down. It has to do with where you are, who you know, who you meet, what kind of projects you choose to work on, that kind of stuff. Doing this obviously is a good way to do it. You know, spending more time here in Los Angeles might be a good thing. You know, pack up every 3 months, you're gonna have an opportunity to leave. So, you know, get a babysitter and fly over here and meet some people. It's a little difficult now with the pandemic, but that's a part of it. Go to film festivals, meet directors, you know, do all that stuff, and choose carefully what you will be doing. Because, again, everybody you've mentioned has a brand. They have, you know, they have a certain style, right? It's not about the notes. It's not about the music. It's about what sets you apart from everybody else. And that's the big one. So you know, you will be doing this as long as you want to be doing it, right? Now it's just how do you get to the next level, right? And that's going to be some careful choices, which a lot of them have not much to do with music. So spread your name out in Europe, you know, just become the go-to guy in Europe, and then use that to come to the States, or come here. You know, I know I'm personal friends with a lot of composers here, a lot of people from Europe, and a lot of them, funnily enough, end up finding a lot of work the moment they come here, because directors and production companies in Europe like to say, I got my score done in Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know, so it's funny how it works, but I hear this over and over and over and over again. You know, having the knowledge that you have, approaching somebody like Tom Holkenborg, Junkie XL, or Bleeding Fingers, or Hunts, you know, and seeing if you can do an internship over there. Not that you would learn anything there, but you would get to show things that you do know, so that they can count you as an option. You know, a lot of people got, you know, Tom, you know, I know Tom before Tom became Tom, when he was still Junkie XL, and you know, and he was DJing, and he was an amazing DJ, and then he vanished for 2-3 years. He was doing trailers, and then vanished for a couple of years. I was like, where's Tom? And Tom is over at Hans's place, you know, becoming his right-hand man, and then he made a name for himself. So something like that might be an option.
Do you think it's a possibility of doing additional music for Hollywood composers from Norway? Because I have a few friends and colleagues that have been doing sporadically additional music for ghostwriters, basically, for projects based in LA from Norway.
Yeah,
Is that something you see a lot of?
Yeah. I have a guy that I look after called Christian Wiebe, who's based in Oslo, and he does stuff for Steve Jablonski, you know, in addition to his own, you know, he's got his own career. And,
he's a good friend of mine.
Oh yeah. So I look after Christian. I heard, I mean, first of all, I heard Dead Snow and lost my mind. You know, it was one of those, you know, I found this random movie on Netflix and I heard the score and I was like, this guy's insane. And then he worked with the guy that we use a lot, a guy named Paul Talkington, who's a you know, a contractor over there.
Contractor.
And so you know, so find ways to get on people's radars. You know, I mean, Paul alerted us about Christian. I'd seen the movie; it just kind of all made sense. He was over here in the U.S. seeing a director that makes Hollywood movies, Tommy Wirkola, and it made sense for us to go. All right, you're that, you know, I mean, and we were told, you know, I mean, by the orchestra that played on a score that he did called What Happened to Monday, that it was, you know, that it was Tom Horkenborg on crack. And so we were like, that is, you know, I mean, to hear that is, you know, I mean, amazing stuff. So, yeah, so, I mean, he's based in Oslo, you know, I mean, like I said, he showed up on Jablonski's radar, and you know, and he does something special for those scores. So there, you know, so there is a way for that. You know, traditionally that model I haven't seen. You know, I mean, our composers that we look after who have done additional music and are now, you know, doing their own projects have all done it here. But Tommy, like I said, I mean, coming from the band world and knowing his way around production really well, you know, I mean, he's able to do that from there. You know? But it could work now, you know, I mean, as well with the time difference, you know, I mean, it's kind of nice, I think, for a composer here in Los Angeles to go, okay, I'm going to go to bed. You know, I mean, that's your zone, you know, when you're working, you know, I mean, being the time difference. But I don't know. I mean, people find all different ways of getting things done. So
there's a lot of coincidences as well. You know, it's
exactly.
It's meeting the right guy at the party, and
Exactly. But he's exactly right. Spending time in LA is you know, you've got to have some face time out here as well.
As long as you can put your name out there and associate it with the project in some way, right? If you're a ghostwriter, you usually don't get to, you know, at best you can put your ghostwriter, you know, so choose people that you associate with carefully. Somebody who will take your good talent and, you know, and use it all for themselves, because there are people. Right.
Yeah.
You want people who are genuinely behind you, who will work with you and use your help, you know, and hopefully down the line, you will earn their trust to the point where they'll be like, hey, I'm so busy. I have 3 movies going. Why? And that's a story that has happened in this town so many times. Make friends.
Make friends. Yeah. It has to start there. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lisa, you're ready. You're next. Let's listen to Lisa's music. Is the sound not working again?
I cannot hear it. I sounds like
I hear it just fine.
Does everyone hear? Sorry, I'm starting again. So if you don't hear
I'm hearing it.
Chat room, because it might be your computer, so I don't, you know.
Yeah, sorry, Demir. I hear it perfectly fine.
I will.
You don't hear it at all, or does it sound bad?
I can hear you guys speaking, but I cannot hear the music that Thomas is playing. I'm going to leave the meeting and I'm going to come right back in.
Okay, we'll wait for you.
Yourself on mute as well. That might help too. I guess we can tell Damir to mute himself, and if it's his connection, it helps if he listens without his video on. So if he can turn his
during the video, it would be good everyone to mute, and then, you know, we go to the I'm just waiting. Sorry, Lisa, that we had to interrupt, and I'll wait for Damir to be back.
Another joke, anyone?
And I'll make sure to interrupt before the punchline.
Do that.
I like how Katarina moved on. She's now in Los Angeles.
Exactly. I put my hometown there first, and I was, nah, I'm in Los Angeles now. This is from Runyon.
Oh, nice. Is this a photo you took, or is this just a...
Yeah, it's from my last trip.
Oh, nice. Part pollution, part marine layer.
I'm here again. Hello, Damir. Are you back?
Hello again.
Cool. And if you want to mute yourself, you know what? I can mute everyone. I'll mute everyone here, and then I'll. And so if the sound doesn't work, just put it in the chat room.
Right.
Hello. Hey, my name is Lisa Montan, and I'm a composer of music and sound art based in Stockholm. What you just heard is music from Euphoria, a feature film produced by Be Real and Alicia Vikander from 2017. A bit from a project that I work on now called Fantasie. And you also heard a symphonic part from a children feature based on a best-selling book, Lasse-Maja. I have a classical music education and have always been composing music. I also have a background from the art scene and visual mediums. I started my film career working as a costume and set designer for film. And my way of scoring a film has similarities to the visual process, meaning I start compose before shooting, just after reading the script. Then I ask the film, how do you sound? And is there music at all? So my scores are also channeled through musicians. I write sheet music and invite live musicians to give it spirit, to avoid MIDI as far as possible. So this way of working adds core to the film. The music become part of the film's bone structure. And as a result, I have received many prizes for best film and TV music in Sweden and Europe. My mission here is to find a way into the American market as a composer for film and TV. I also have an art house project that I wrote the script, music, and illustrated with an animator that I wish to find financing, production, or distribution or other options for. And this project is a 70-minute audio-visual journey where the music takes your hand and leads you through an inner world as if you are lying in a field and looking at the clouds, where the audience get a chance to feel and reflect. The name of that project is Fantasie, and it refers to the old Disney production Fantasia. There is a 3-minute pilot for Fantasie that I gladly send to you after this meeting if you like. And if you like to hear more of me, you can go to Spotify or YouTube and search for Lisa Montan or the group Una. Thank you for your time. I hope to collaborate with you very soon.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much for that presentation. You definitely were prepared, obviously. I can tell that you have a script that you've kind of prepared in this sense, because I don't know if you're reading off the script right now, but it definitely it has a sense that you have prepared. So I would, if you're not reading off the script, then I would only recommend just kind of getting a bit more loose with it. It was a bit, you know, you've got a great presentation. I love the music. The music to me is very distinct, and it gave me a lot of like Colin Stetson, you know, reed instrument, breathy kind of feelings, which I love personally, just as a music lover. And I remember from your application that I was really excited to have you in this conference, because I just wanted to learn more about kind of what you do, because you're an accomplished musician, and I loved hearing about how you've worked in other areas of film, because to me, that shows that you love film and you love the filmmaking process. So you really kind of are a team player when it comes to making a project. What lost me a little bit is your pitch on the animated short, which I love hearing that you're working on it. To me, it's the wrong room to pitch that, but I understand that you are doing your best to get what you want done out of your passion project. So I applaud you for that, for the gumption for for doing that. I think it's not for this room, so I would adjust your pitch. It's great to mention that you're in pre-production for an animated short film, but I just don't divulge so much information about it. But either way, great job.
I have to disagree with Chandler on that. I'm a big fan of that. Like I always go, okay, you want to write music for film? Well, then go make a film and write the music. That's how you do it, you know. So the fact that you are, you know, we represent a lot of songwriters who are involved in the development process and come with ideas and that kind of stuff, you know, and they make projects happen. And I'm personally a big fan of that. You know, I mean, you found something that was really meaningful to you, you know, that Disney movie Fantasia, and you were inspired to make something. You know, I think that is really cool, and something that, you know, when I'm looking for a partner in a client, you know, I look for new opportunities, you know, I mean, that aren't, you know, that aren't traditional, just wait until somebody makes a movie and then write the music for it, you know, and then maybe you'll be hired for it. You know, like if you're involved from the beginning, you know, nobody can kick you out. You know, if it's your thing, that's yours. So I actually really love that, and it opens the door, I think, for as the model of deal making, or the traditional deal is changing, you know, and with streaming, you know, I mean, you don't see the back end that you would see, you know, you would normally receive from your performing rights and that kind of thing. You know, I mean, different ways of making money for a composer. I applaud when somebody comes with a different idea, you know, so I think that's great. I was looking at your website and it says formerly Lisa Holmquist. I was curious, you know, sorry, am I supposed to know who Lisa Holmquist is?
No.
Okay. Well, then that's not.
But
then that's not.
if you knew Lisa Holmquist, maybe you wouldn't know Lisa Montan. You know what I mean?
I got
so
you.
I just got, it's only a year ago I got a new name. So this is to the people who know me a year ago, right?
I got
so for you, Lisa Montan works.
I got you. I don't think it's necessary, you know, and like I said, it made me feel like I should know who that person is, you know, and I mean, it'd be like, I don't know what Madonna's real name is, but, you know, if it was like known as Madonna, formerly this, you know, and then I'd understand it, you know, I mean, so I don't think that's necessary, you know, and like I said, it made me feel like I should know something. And then I started Googling and I'm like, I don't know who this is. I still don't know who this is. So just something on that, but yeah, I thought the music was fantastic. And, you know, and like I said, I think you being you know, I mean, knowing your way around film sets and, you know, showing that you are a true collaborator is something that's really going to be valuable to you. And obviously you've worked with really talented people like Alicia Vikander, you know, if she's ever in the production, you know, the producer seat again and can help you. I mean, that's only going to be amazing stuff for you. So, yeah, I enjoyed that.
Name dropping. It works. It works because it gives you validity, you know, because it tells people you're associated with people who have been validated by the society and they trust you with their projects. So I think, you know, mentioning that in a humble way, in a smart way, never hurts. I personally enjoyed your music very much, Lisa. I hear a singular vision and style that can expand within that realm, which I have been a big fan of for a while now. You know, you're not trying to tell everybody, hey, what do you need? I'll do it for you. It's like, this is what I do. And if you need this, you come to me. I have a feeling that is your attitude. And a lot of people whose works I appreciate and people who have made brands out of their names have that approach. I would keep that. I hear what Jeff is saying about, you know, promoting your film projects. I think it can work for you in some ways, you know, telling the other filmmakers that you're a filmmaker yourself and that you understand the language and the medium, you know, and telling the story. On the other hand, you know, if you're pitching yourself as a composer, they want a composer. They don't want another filmmaker, you know. So that's, you know, that's just kind of a set of personal choices to make. Your sound to me is less of a Hollywood sound, more of a New York, London, Berlin sound. I would look to associate with people who are making, you know, singular statements with their visual, with their films, with their stories. I know there's people here as well. Sofia Coppola comes to mind, people like that. But it's, it's not your Harry Potter kind of stuff, So just focus on that and connect with those people, To me, you have what it takes. It's just a matter of now expanding that by associating, with other people and sharing what you know and what you have done with as many as you can, which you seem to be doing. So nicely done.
To unmute. Felisa, I just want to chime in a few things technically, because I think it might be useful for you also over the next few days, and especially with Netflix. I hear what Jeff is saying, and I think for today it was great to hear what you're doing beside composing, and there is value to it, and in order to get feedback. But at the end, I think you always have to look at who is my audience. So for Netflix, it is the music department. So there I might not include that information and go more about your music and about the composing. So I think, that's where it is. Know your audience. What Chandler said, I had the feeling you were reading the script, and for a pitch and a presentation, and I've seen that over and over, you have to be careful, because what it does, it makes it difficult for me to connect, and also your passion to show through, because it becomes a bit more like I'm reading something, and I don't know if that's also a language thing, but maybe for Monday you want to write some bullet points or some keywords, and then trust, and then just talk more from your heart, and not read it as much, so people can get to know you as a person a bit better also, just for the presentation, I think. And I don't think it's necessary to tell people where they can find you on the web or on Spotify, because at the end, I hope that you're all on Spotify and you all have websites and people get that. So I don't think that's necessary for the presentation when you talk to a music department, etc. So just, technically, I hope, for Monday, you can kind of smoothen that out again, because your music is so great and your career is awesome. And if now you can work a bit on the presentation, so we actually you talk to someone instead of reading it, I think that will help.
Now knowing that you are meeting with Netflix, I think if I were your person, I would say 1,000% mention it to Netflix that you have this idea, because we talk with music departments and production people all the time who are like, do any of your composers have original ideas? Because there's so many streaming sites right now, and there's a demand for content. We've over here, Disney Plus, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, Pluto is a new one, HBO Max. In so many different places they're looking for content. So, like I said, definitely trust. Don't just listen to me. But like I said, if you were working with me, I would say you're probably not going to have another opportunity with some of these people for a while. And this goes for everybody. So this is why this is so important. Why this pitch is so important is, you're not going to be in the room with these people for quite a while, and you got to put it all out there. So
Jeff, just a quick question. I hear what you're saying, but they will be talking to music people.
Still, these people are, Netflix is a unique place where they don't have, they're not separated. Nobody has offices really. They're living, well, nobody's together now, but they're, their conference rooms and their meetings are all, it's a different environment than other places. So, and it's an artist driven, they claim to be an artist driven place where they let their filmmakers kind of, make the stuff that they're doing. So I don't know. It might not be the place, but like I said, if somebody, like I said, we've had people, we've had composers go in and pitch ideas to like DreamWorks Animation and to Disney and to, a lot of places, where music driven projects do really well places. And to be honest with you, I mean, as theaters are going to be brought back in, people are looking for content that are going to get butts back in seats, and those are often family movie musicals and movies that make you feel really good and that you want to go see with other people. It's not necessarily a horror movie. So it's a time right now, I think, where people are looking for ideas from everybody. But you're right. I mean, you've got to gauge the temperature. So.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jeff. Like I said, I like the pit that it's in there. I just said to kind of ease off the gas a little bit. Definitely say it's in pre-production, working on it, looking for partners, whatever. Let it go. Don't drive in as your primary focus. But anyways, we should probably move on because I know we've got so many other composers.
Yeah, we have to. Hold on.
Yes. Hello. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
So my name is Hallvarður. I am from Iceland, and I'm a composer, and I have a background in jazz and rock and contemporary classical music. I studied jazz guitar originally, and then I moved to composition, which I studied first here in Iceland, and I got into kind of electronic and writing for classical instruments. And then I moved to Brooklyn for 2 years and studied there and learned a bit more about indeterminate music and stuff. Since I moved back, I've been working with a choreographer. We've done four pieces, and that's kind of ranged from electronic kind of noisy music to choir, and I have an instrument that it's kind of a modified guitar that I use called the Vardephone, and do some soundscapes. And then I've been working with, I did one film with Grímur Hákonarson, and it's called Hreint Hjarta, or Clear Heart, Pure Heart, sorry, which was a documentary about a priest in the south of Iceland. Then I've been working for the last several years with a director called Richard Ramtjörn. We've done 2 movies. The later one is called The Moment, and it's running currently as a streaming event online. And there we perform the music live. I'm working with another composer, and he uses kind of brain waves to change the timeline of the movie. I've also been playing on soundtracks for other local composers. I use the guitar a lot in my music, and I process it through different equipment, and lately I've been getting more into synths and doing kind of random stuff, but I like to juxtapose it with the kind of purity of these classical instruments. But I think my music has a kind of organic feel to it. So it's electronic in a kind of vintage way. Yeah, thanks a lot. I really like to collaborate with people, so I hope I can collaborate with some of you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Appreciate it. Just to touch base on your, not the music, but how you present yourself, to me, it came across unprepared, and the opposite of what Lisa just gave us, which was much more of a preparation of who she is and kind of what she's talking about. To me, I felt like you were thinking of what you were going to say as you were saying it, meaning you basically, it comes across to me like if I'm in a meeting and you come in and present to me like this, that you haven't thought about, kind of how you're going to present yourself. So you're just kind of grabbing the words as you're presenting. So I would definitely recommend practicing. And he's got a script. Oh, so sorry.
Well, I don't
I
have
can
a
tell.
script, but I did actually record myself like 10 times yesterday doing this. That doesn't mean that it's going to be good, but
Yeah, well, so being nervous and soft-spoken is not a problem to me. I think everybody is always nervous and in these kind of scenarios. And obviously this is a rehearsal room, so any sort of feedback you guys are getting, please know that, this is constructive criticism that hopefully that you're all taking in and not being taking too personal. It's just obviously our reaction. So I appreciate that you have prepared. Salvador, I'm gonna slaughter everybody's names, I'm sure, but so I guess I would just think about what you're saying and kind of weave it all together a bit tighter, because it was a bit drifty. And so I feel like hearing that you love to collaborate, hearing that you've worked on these films. I know the director that you mentioned, Grimur, because we've worked on Rams and The County. So, I think that's a great name drop for me, because I'm like, oh, I know this director. He's awesome. And I think there was a lot of highlights, of course, of what you said. I just think you just need to glue it together a little bit tighter. And music presentation was nice. I said earlier, vocals are a bit of a difficult thing to place in my head. Of course, there's many moments where you can have vocals in film score, and yours obviously were not so much lyrics, but more so atmosphere. So I appreciate that part. I would have loved to hear just maybe some other tone or something else in your library as well in the presentation. So in that sense, it's good because I want to hear more.
Thank
you. I was reading in your bio the Haldoraphone. Is that something that you have at home?
No, but actually Hildur Guðnadóttir uses that one.
Exactly. So something
guy,
to.
So he and me and Hildur and Halldór were all in the Art Academy together. Actually, me and Hildur were in a band together. So it's kind of connected, but I just made my own because not everybody can have a Haldoraphone around.
Yeah, Yeah. I mean, I found that really interesting. You know, I mean, so you know, I mean, you mentioned it in your bio, so it was something, you know, and you've written, and it says you've written a lot for it, you know, so I would really talk about that and equate it to Hildur, you know, who is a hugely well-known name, and everybody knows that score. And as soon as you know, they won't know that instrument, but they'll know the, you know, I mean, they'll know the sound of it if you say it's what was used on that, you know, and just a way to kind of relate more to the kind of music that you write, you know, in which, you know, I wish we'd gotten to hear a little bit more of who you are as a composer, you know, I mean, in the music, you know, so I'd maybe, you know, if there's other examples you could, you know, you could play as well, that'd be really, really beneficial. And, you know, the reason why I asked is because a lot of people, you know, when they're speaking, a way to calm their nerves is to hold on to an instrument, you know, and while you've got the opportunity of you know, if that's something that, like I said, it helps some people to, you know, to hold something, and if it's something that you can play, even better, you know, but you're not always going to be on a computer. You're often going to be in person. So, you know, being more comfortable talking about yourself is something that you can practice on and get better at. So yeah, but yeah, cool stuff. Yeah.
Thank you.
Damir, you're muted, by the way. So
Okay, I just unmuted. I was just notified by gods that I was muted, and I am now unmuted. So what I was saying is now for the non-Hollywood angle on all this, I think both Chandler and Jeff are giving you perspective from kind of the working Hollywood, you know, I'll score the, you know, movies out there. To me, you don't fall necessarily in that category. Maybe down the line at some point, but not really. You're experimental. You are forward thinking or backwards thinking, like way, way backwards thinking, from what I've heard on your music. And you know, for the right project, you will be the person to call, right? You don't need to do action scenes. You don't, because you don't want to do them, and you shouldn't be doing them. You know, you do a certain thing that is important to you, and you should be doing it. Even the presentation, I hear everything they're saying, and that applies to people who want to be constantly working as film composers. But 20 years from now, your presentation is going to be like, oh, he's like the Arvo Pärt of the film music, and you know, doesn't give a shit about selling himself. You just, you know, you are communicating what you have to say, and it's all about what you have to say. So it's kind of different to me, different, you know, different applications in different contexts, right? For what you are doing, again, to me, the context, your context is not necessarily Hollywood. You know, it's independent movies, it's experimental movies, it's things like that, which is what you're doing, you know?
Well, thank you.
So I would just hone in on that and focus on that angle, you know, and just spread the word about what you're doing. One thing, technical thing about the recordings, the choir comes off a bit amateur. Like, I would re-record it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if that was intentional or not, because it does give it a kind of a raw feel, which is great. But I would consider re-recording it and getting somebody with some more experience, because it's really beautiful music, and you want the listener not to pay attention to the performance, but just to be able to lose themselves in the music itself.
Yeah, thanks.
Gunvar, next.
So, do everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. My name is Søs Gunnar Reiberg. I'm an electronic composer and sound artist based in Copenhagen. I have a very broad international performance and production background. I have released several releases under my own name. I've done multi-channel installations. I'm doing live concerts all around the world. I am composing for dance and have also composed for theater, both in Copenhagen, in Denmark, and in Germany and Switzerland. I've worked for video games and film. So I've done several collaborations through my years as a composer. I relate to music as a living material that I create. So the textures and the sound design for my electronic instruments are a very inseparable part of my compositions, as you also hear in my pitch. I have worked for video games, and the most known one is a video game called Inside from a company based here in Copenhagen, Playdead. And it has won awards for both music and sound design, mainly big video games awards, but also what you might know best in the film world is BAFTA awards, and also a BAFTA nomination for the music. I worked with so far one feature film, and it's a catastrophe film by a Danish director, Rasmus Klosterbro. It's called Cutterhead, and it is taking place in a metro construction site, and it's basically a condensed version of Europe and how the gap between rich and poor is getting bigger and bigger. And I have won Carl Prize, which is a composer award here in Denmark, and then I've won an award in France for it, and then I'm nominated also for another award in Denmark and won the European Composer and Music Song Alliance called Camille Awards. The films I can see myself very much working with is films that has a very unique expression within the sound and music, which would be films like The Shining or Solaris, Blade Runner, David Lynch, Dune, and so on. I would like to work now with new territories and possibilities, and that's why I'm doing this pitch.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Before I dive into it, I just want to say that you're definitely one of the people I was most excited to have on this conference, because I love Inside, and I thought the score was really good. And when I saw your name pop up in the list of contenders, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's part of this conference. So anyways, I'm really excited that you're here. Thank you. Obviously, Thomas had to cut your presentation short because you broke the rules, so only 2 minutes. So
I'm sorry about that.
yes, it's okay. No, I'm just saying, you know, like when there are parameters, or when there are,
I just
somebody asks you for something.
totally couldn't calculate 120 seconds. I completely got it wrong.
Oh, got it. No worries. Well, either way, you know, so that just so you know,
Yeah.
you know, usually when people ask for something, try to stick to what they ask for.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, anyways, the music I thought was great. You know, I thought it captures kind of what you are as an artist and what I've heard from you before. And your Cutterhead score, I think, is excellent, because when I was reviewing a lot of people's submissions, that was one of the scores where I just kept it going because I liked it so much. So to me, I think you've got great, unique sound and a very distinct artistic voice in your music. And as far as the presentation is concerned, I I really appreciate you just being very forward about your accomplishments and where you want to go and what kind of directors or projects you want to work on, and that you're looking to work in more territories. So I don't really have any much negative feedback other than, don't send more music than you're not supposed to. In this context, I think a lot of people will want more music. So either way, yeah, great job.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think you have a fantastic story, and you've got a very cool background. I personally haven't heard, or I'm not a big video game player, but to hear Chandler, who is a trusted source, that this is the kind of, often how it works with us is Chandler will hear music, and come to us with recommendations of, hey, would you be interested in meeting with this person, that kind of stuff. I mean, hearing Chandler speak greatly about your music is something that I would value, and then do a lot of research on you, which I had 120 seconds to do, which is not a lot of time, but you reinforced everything that I read in your presentation of yourself. And something that I personally, if you study the kind of composers that I work with, I like people who don't just write music for film and TV. I like people who do have multiple ways of continuing their careers, outside of just writing for film and TV. So that is something that I think, and is essential, because I don't know anybody who can just survive, even the greats, are having to do different things than just write music for film and TV now. It's, Giacchino just came out with a record, not that he needed to, but like it's different. Obviously we're in a time where not a lot of stuff is being made. So to be able to shift gears and have experience doing something like that is something that I really look at and get excited about. It's something that when we did start all this, we started to go, okay, who are composers going to be on the other side of this? Are there going to be the people who just sit around and wait for films or opportunities to come to them, or are those people who are actively going to put themselves out there and be known for for doing big things during all this? And I see you as one of those people. So congrats on that. I look forward to, I'm glad you're part of this, and I look forward to checking out a whole lot more of your music. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're on mute again, Damir.
All right, I'm just trying to keep the noise down. I very much enjoyed your presentation. I've been to your website. You are doing things right. Again, from my perspective, Los Angeles is probably not the place to put most of your efforts in finding work, although it's a possibility, but more like places like Berlin and London and New York. All the movies you mentioned, I can totally see you working on something in those lines. It totally makes sense. You seem to have focus in what you're doing, a certain style and a direction. Just keep that. So, it's just a matter of connecting with the filmmakers who get it, who are on those same lines, and doing more of it. That's your job again is marketing and sharing and promotion and self-promotion rather than anything else. So good stuff, really good stuff.
Thanks.
Just a minor little thing on your website, the menu buttons or whatever, the contact film video games, those move down throughout the entire page and cover, and like I said, this is just the smallest little thing, but the one thing that somebody, if I were to go, hey, would you be, if I were to call somebody and say, hey, would you be interested in meeting with her? And then I sent over your material, that's the thing that somebody would be like, why is her website like this? Like, this is distracting, you know? And so, I mean, it's little things like that, honestly, that, you know, I mean, that people kind of, you know, point out. So I would just, you know, if there's a way to, if there's a way to fix that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll look into that. Thanks.
Thank you, Gunvor. Thanks for the feedback. And
thank you so much. Yeah.
Unmute, Sala. Unmute.
Sorry. Hi. So I started my musical career as a classical percussionist, but after an injury on my hand, I had to think of something else. And at the time when the injury happened, it felt horrible. But now, when I think back, it's probably one of the best things that happened to me, because it led me here to composing for films. So so far I've composed for, I think, 17 feature documentaries, many short films, a few commercials, and my first feature film, like fiction, was premiered last year. My composing is greatly inspired by the things I see. I mean, music makes me see colors and vice versa. Colors makes me hear music. So I think that quality makes it easier for me to talk about music with people who don't necessarily have a musical background. Over the years, I've gotten feedback saying that there's this distinct sense of clarity in my music. I also feel that it's important to have an evolved sense of ambiguity so that you're able to convey complex and layered information with your music without craving that much space. I think that's important in film composing. Now that I listen to my music after all the other music, it sounded weird. Maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. No, I think you definitely have a place, in the entertainment world. So I wouldn't, be too distraught by other presentations. Musically, I felt like you put together a great musical presentation that has a strong through line for me. I got different senses of what you can do, but to me your strings really kind of held everything together, and it gave me a sense of your design as a composer. And I think what you said as far as your music shares the screen well, or I can't remember the exact words you used, but you basically said that it doesn't demand too much attention, that it just kind of supports what's happening. I think that's obviously the goal of film music. A lot of film scores, their goal is not to draw attention to themselves, but to support the emotions and the story that's happening on screen. And the way that you brought that up, I thought is a strong point, that I can't remember if you said you've been told or that you feel that your music is this way, but either way, I think it's a nice thing to mention. And I love the personal story about how you used to be a performer and then you lost the use of your hand, and that kind of turned you into a new direction and found new ways to be artistic. And so you didn't let it bring you down necessarily, but you kind of drove you to be more creative and more fruitful in your musical exploration. So overall, I don't really have any criticism to give, except just at the very end, don't think that you don't have a place in film music.
Yeah, agreed with that. Your confidence in a room is going to mean everything, and your confidence in your music, is going to be everything. We represent a composer, Jermaine Franco, who was a percussionist and is now doing very well for herself. She worked with John Powell for years before now having her own career. So that's a really really cool way into scoring, and I love the story. Is it synesthesia that you have?
I think so. Yeah.
Very cool.
I actually I realized it when I started composing for films.
Yeah, amazing.
Aware of that before.
Yeah. The music was fantastic. It's very clear that you know how to help listening to this stuff without picture is really hard. Obviously, outside of very few, film scores do I just like to listen to in the car, or listen to, and so, so all of this is subjective, but what I gathered through your music was I could start to, tell stories, which music fills in the gaps a whole lot, and moving the story along in a movie. And I gathered that, and just confidence, just really, you do belong in this world, and in this composing world, not the whole world, but in this compositional world, and everybody, and you do have a unique voice, and be proud of that. So, yeah.
Nice work, Sala. Really enjoyed listening to what you have to say musically. I think your note about speaking of music in visual terms, in terms of colors and things like that, is something you should definitely continue communicating with people. There's a lot of people who make films who know nothing about music, and you know, who speak in terms of colors and stories and shapes and camera angles and this kind of stuff. And I think this will this should help with communication. What I would encourage you to do is look into places beyond of what has been done before. You know, I hear music, it's solid, it's really well done, and I've heard music like this a lot. Not exactly like your music, but you know, you wanna make a dish that nobody has tasted before, a painting that nobody has seen, a color that hasn't been mixed before, you know, and being mindful of that, to me, is a big part of what all creators should be doing, you know, because that will attract the filmmakers to you. They will know, oh, Salah can give me a sonic equivalent for my visual ambition. You know what I mean? So that's, I would just think of, you know, think in those terms. You obviously have the education, you can do it, right? Just think in terms of like, hey, can I go beyond the way things have been done before, and start, you know, maybe in small steps, start experimenting, start seeing if there's other ways of doing these things. Other than that, everything is great. You're really personable. You can tell, one can tell you love what you're doing. So just continue all that. Keep pushing the envelope.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
Up next is Nancy.
I switched on the gas. Something is cooking without a spoon. What the hell am I supposed to do? The table is laid, salt in the middle, a cloth with holes in stains as I wait for you. It is my ambition to ask you no questions. I don't care where you're coming from. I don't care what you do. I want to start over without any fear, without any hope. Don't give me hope. I want the truth.
Sorry, I'm always muting everyone. So after the music, you need to unmute. I'm always before the music muting everyone. So if you want to unmute, please.
Mute. Ugh. Let's see. Okay. Oops. Hang on a minute. Balancing this in a glass. Hi, good evening. My name is Nomzi Kumalo, and I'm a singer, songwriter, and poet based in Oslo. And gosh, the song that you heard is a song that I wrote. And it just, it reminds me of the journey that has taken me, has brought me here. And I arrived in Oslo on autopilot because I met someone in South Africa on campus. He is French, and we moved to France, and then he found work in Oslo. But the thing is, I didn't know what I wanted to do with myself, and I also didn't take responsibility for my life, and I ended up eventually in rehab. And I celebrated 7 years sober last year by releasing the song called "The Truth," and I think for me, I released it under my own label, so it's been a lot of soul searching and really tapping into my strengths. And my strengths are, I believe, my vocals and my melodies and my lyrics. And my piano skills are, I'm working on my piano skills, and I worked with the arrangements, collaborated with a pianist who's Norwegian with the arrangement of "The Truth," and also other music as well. And I mean, my dream is to, I love so many different subjects, whether it's film, literature. I'm just passionate about so many things. I think that's also one of the things that made it so difficult for me to find out what it is that I'm meant to do in this life. So music to me is very important, and I'm drawn to very moving film and theater and productions that speak about the human spirit and what it takes to be fully human, and the bravery of being of doing what one does, you know, and being honest and truthful about who one is. So I love performing, and I really miss performing, and when I think of film, I think of very strong films that have moved me. I think of the Revolutionary Roads, Titanic, you know, movies that bring me to, you know, like move me to tears and really have a profound effect on my life. A Star Is Born is a movie that also really moved me. And movies like The Curious Case of Benjamin Button and The Illusionist. I love all these kinds of films that are dramatic and also have also romantic film. I do have a background in painting, so I'm very much passionate about visuals, and I have and my brand, the Black and White brand, is very important to me. However, when I think of film, you know, I think it's very much more about the message of the film and the depth of the film. And I'm currently I connected with a film director who's Dikale Rimash, who's based in Joshua, California, and we connected on social media. And I think he's very passionate about what I'm doing, and I'm also passionate about what he's doing. And I think for me, I am so drawn to artists and creatives that filmmakers who are who understand what I'm doing, and it's like we're passionate about what we can bring to each other's work. So so he's started working on a black and white film and is inspired by the music that I'm doing, and I am just completely open to working and collaborating with filmmakers and musicians. And I really am, so I feel very honored to be in this panel, in this mission with all these amazing talents. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jeff, I just need one, so we were supposed to end at 11:30 and Jeff has a hard out, but I know you said you have a few minutes. I'll let you go first, talk to Nomsi, and then we can talk about the people that he's going to miss. We can talk about having you guys connect with him later on.
Yeah, please do so. Nomsi, thanks so much for being direct and honest with us. You know, I mean, what a spectacular life you've had. You know, and I appreciate you really, you know, in going there and telling us who you are, because it does come across. And I mean, I'm not great on songs, you know, to be completely honest with you. You know, I mean, that was, you know, I mean, I'm not the person to ask, but I did, you know, feel stuff for that piece of music. So well done. But I wish I could talk more about it. I'd love to see the lyrics to it, if that's possible. You know, if you could, because I am a massive lyric person, and I would love to see that separate. If you're able to get that to Chandler and Thomas, and send that over, and I'd love to hear it, you know, while reading the lyrics, and then I could maybe weigh a little bit more. You know, I mean, when I was listening to it, I was listening to melody, you know, and structure, I guess, more than it's hard for me to listen to everything all together when I hear a song. But thank you so much. I mean, I you know, I can't really give too much say in who you are as a film and TV composer, you know, I mean, but other than the fact that you're able to put yourself into your music is important, and I applaud that. So, yeah, and like Chandler just said, I'm really sorry that I have to jump. This is always a really cool thing to be a part of, and thanks everybody for putting themselves out there and doing this. And yeah, the two remaining victims, if you will,
Thank you.
I'd be happy to, you know, spend some more time with. I just gotta jump to this thing. So thanks for having me, Chandler and Thomas. Kaisa, it was great to see you again. And yeah, everybody stay safe.
Thanks, Jeff. So I'll jump in. So Nomsi, I know I was really surprised to see your application on of all the contestants, because you only had songs to offer and you didn't have kind of score to offer. But I thought you would be a great person to add, to kind of juxtapose against all the composers versus songwriters. And I wanted to hear from you directly as far as your approach to music and where you can see yourself writing music for film. So from your song, which I love, and I went to your SoundCloud and listened to more songs because I thought they were really beautiful. I think you're on a great path on the song side. On the composing side, I didn't get a sense from your discussion that you are interested in composing. So I was very, very curious that you that I didn't get. Sorry, I should say I would love to know if you would be interested in writing instrumental music for, you know, for films and projects, or if you really are on a songwriter path and you don't want to water it down with other
I would
work.
love to, honestly, I would love to learn on the instrumental side of things. However, I think it's my vocals are much stronger than my piano skills, and but it's something that I definitely would love to explore. I love creating and I love working with visuals, so I'm very open to that.
Great, yeah. So I just would suggest to in your presentation, you can mention that you provided a song because you're extremely passionate about it and it tells a very personal story that you wanted to share, and then make sure you hammer in the point that you are in the business of creating music for stories, and that you are that you want to be a part of projects that really inspire you, or however you want to word it in your own words. But I think it would just be important to make sure that comes across, that while we're in a session talking about film music, and that's primarily not songs, that you brought a song because it's the thing you're most passionate about and that you are looking to explore more into instrumental scoring work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Namzi, it's decision time, girl. You know, you seem to want to do so many things, right? Which is great. Part of the reason why you want to do a lot of these things is because they move you, right? But what is obvious, I think, to everybody who heard your song, that your strength is in your voice and the words, right? It's piano playing, who cares? There is a million piano players. Film scoring, there's a million people out there who can write really competent, you know, like everybody on this panel. People who can sing like you, there are very few. People who have a voice like you, there's only one, right? So you have to acknowledge where your strengths are, from my perspective. There's echoes of Billie Holiday. There's incredible sadness and beauty in your performance. You should not be on this panel. You should be talking to record executives at companies, and you should be making records, right? And down the line, 10, 20, 30 years from now, you might end up making movies and be involved with these things. And the songs that you make can be part of the movies that move you so much in a very different way that background underscore would do. So I would focus more on writing more songs and recording them and really partnering up with people who can do some of these things so you don't have to do everything yourselves. There's a lot of people who are looking, I mean, your voice is a big treasure, seriously. I find it very moving and very, very unique.
Thank you so much.
So, you know, focus on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And when you come to LA, I'll introduce you to some South African filmmakers here who might want to listen to you sing and maybe work.
Thank you. I'd love that. I mean, I hear what you're saying about having a focus. But at the same time, I also appreciate meeting you and everyone else because it's the foundation. This is foundation, and I love networking. And I think it's just, you know, it's good timing. So I feel like I'm at the right place myself. And I appreciate, I think hearing from you and everyone else and getting feedback is very important. It's very important, and I take it to heart and also into my business as well. So thank you so much. I appreciate this.
Up next is Per and then Einar. I just want to say, because Jeff had to leave, I don't want you guys to be at a disadvantage, so we're going to continue on now. Jeff used to work for ASCAP, so he will join us again at 12:30, and he agreed to give Per and Einar feedback then. So I hope you guys can also, you know, stay until, you know, the whole ASCAP session, and Per and Einar will also get feedback from Jeff. So there's no, you know, so you all get the same feedback. And here is Per's music.
Okay, so hi everybody. My name is Per, and about 10 years ago I formed a team together with my brother Carl, who's here. And today we run a high-end studio in central Stockholm. And since about 4 years ago, since 4 years we have also musician and producer Ludwig with us in the team. We are mainly focused on composing and producing music for film and TV drama production. But we have also carried out work for high prestige commercials internationally. Besides our audiovisual work, Carl is also a member of several live acts ranging from jazz to Latin music. And for the moment, I'm working on a symphony orchestra commission to be recorded by the London Philharmonic Orchestra next year. It's a piece focusing on endangered bird singing. With now over something like 25 drama production in our slate, both here in Scandinavia as well in the US. We did some indie production in the US so far. We hope and we believe it's time for us to do more international work. We aim at composing scores for blockbusters as well as complex indie films. Since we love, writing both scores as well as songs with lyrics, a dream would be, for example, to create a musical universe for something like a animated film like a Pixar or Disney or something like that. That would be like the dream. I think the words that come to my mind to describe us, me and my brother and us here, is that we are like a hybrid, strange animal. And I think the most important for me is to have fun every day and to seize the moment every day and to enjoy what we're doing. And I think we enjoy to collaborate. We really love taking on different kind of collaborations. It could be filmmakers, other artists. And I mean, it's also, you never know, we're trying to chartering pathways and to bring people and see what we can do with emerging artists as well as a very established artist. So it's for us, it's an open future, and we're happy to be a part of this panel just because we would like to do some more work in the US. And is there anything else you want to add, Carl?
Am I allowed to speak?
Can you speak? Can you also speak?
Hi, I'm Carl. I'm not Per. No, you nailed it, bro. Great. No, but yeah, I don't know what to say. Really. No, the thing with us is that we come from so many different musical paths. That's why maybe our show really here, like to concentrate 2 minutes. Now in retrospective, we should have maybe gone for even more score music than our jazz work and other vocalist stuff. But that's also a side of us that we're really proud and happy about, that we have that many different sides of us. Yeah. And as you said, so far we've made 2 films in the US, and we are aiming to make more. We did Wild Nights with Emily, starring Molly Shannon, which has premiered on, I think, in 52 cities last year, and is streaming now on. Yeah, we have another Human Affairs by Charlie Burns.
Yeah,
who is also streaming on Amazon Prime. Yeah, and I mean, we collaborated with Mikael Hofström. Currently, we have a director friend of ours who is doing his first feature for Universal.
Yes.
So he started filming today, actually. In New
Yes,
Orleans.
in
Yeah.
New
So
Orleans.
we're hoping to, also find people to work with, to collaborate with in the US, and especially in the industry, to maybe help us open those doors that it's quite hard to open, even though you're good at what you do, but you have to also kick the doors open.
Yeah, get your foot in. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, guys. Well, first of all, yeah, I've met Carl before, and I've heard about you guys. And hi, Carl. And I know that you guys are super pros and that you're really well respected in Stockholm and everything that you do. So, also, I was very surprised to see in the kind of application process that it was only, is it pair or par? Par, sorry, par. Because you guys are a duo, so I was surprised to see that only one was under submission. But it's great to have you both, because I know that you guys come as a pair. So it's definitely great to have both of you in the room and hear from you. Your presentation on yourselves, I think, is good in the sense that you come across, super confident. You guys know what you're doing. You kind of have goals. You know what you can bring to the table and everything like that. Musically, it felt a little kind of so it came up very, very commercial to me, which is great, obviously, in the sense of commercials, like as well as high budget kind of film sort of commercial work, whether it's a romantic comedy or what have you. But the music to me was a bit too eclectic. I would have liked to have stayed on one path, one mood, so to speak. I know you guys can do it all, but I personally would have loved to kind of stay, or maybe even one genre, and just kind of like really hammer in what you want. So if that's animated feature film, which you brought up, then really give us animated feature wonder and don't worry about the other stuff, because there's lots of composers around the globe that can do a lot of different styles. You guys train for it, you guys practice for it, you guys work towards it. So presenting yourself as a pair that can do anything is not exciting. It's kind of like, okay, great, I know composers that can do anything. I want what you guys can do. What can the brothers bring that I can't get anywhere else?
Thanks.
What can I say after Chandler? I mean, I can just echo everything he's saying.
Yeah.
Versatility is good. It will only get you to a certain level.
Yeah.
Right? What is it that you can do that nobody else can do? And you're obviously proud of the fact that you're versatile and you can do all these things. And funnily enough, that just dilutes your value. Right? The more you push your versatility, we can do dramatic, cinematic music, and we can do commercials, and we can do this, and we can do that, and we can do that. Just makes you fall into the big crowd of millions of people who can do the same thing. You obviously know what you're doing, right? You guys are pros. You don't need us to tell you that. I know you know that. It's why would somebody call you instead of the other million people who can do these things just as well? As far as your demo reel and your presentation, the one thing that came to my mind is television all the time, reality TV shows and things like that. That's the reaction that I, as a listener who is in this part of the business, gets. Not dramatic movies, not even animation, right? So I know I don't know how much direction you were kind of given for these things, and I know for every particular project you would carefully choose things, but to me it comes down to the brand, the focus, the uniqueness. Why are you different from everybody else? That's it. You know what you're doing. Also, come here. If you want to work on American projects, come to New York, come to LA, meet people, and meeting and doing this, and this is for everybody, is not a matter of popping in for a week and having a couple of coffee meetings. If you're doing that, then come once a month, once every month and a half, be a presence, especially these days. I mean, now with COVID, things are different, but for the most part, I have tons of friends who are creators, from filmmakers, directors, or whatever, who don't necessarily live in one place, you know, but they show up often enough that you consider them as part of that scene, you know, which comes down to commitment. You know, it's not gonna, LA is not gonna come serve to you on the platter for the most likely, unless you meet somebody over there who is working on projects based here. But, you know, come over here, meet some people, you know, be a part of the scene. That there's you know, there's consciously or subconsciously, it starts coming down to that level, you know, because these days, again, people with today's technology can create really, really good stuff, well produced, well mixed, everything in their room, wherever they are. You know, it's the risk and the commitment of coming to a strange new place like Los Angeles, you know, where other people, other filmmakers have made that commitment, that risk. Hey, I'm going to LA and I'm going to try my luck over there. It kind of creates a bond, you know, of oh, okay, we're in the same boat. And it's not easy. You know, it's not easy. So that's what I have to say.
Great.
Good stuff. Really good stuff.
One other thing I just wanted to bring up logistically is that we asked presentations to be 2 to 3 minutes, and both Nomzi and the Frieds, they went over. So just try to keep your presentations short. We have one more that we have to go to our final and last, and then ASCAP is right around the corner. So I want to make sure we get to it.
And I just want to add to what Damir said, because I know Per and Kaldi, and I'll talk about that more on Monday. They're a great example. I've seen them at a lot of festivals, be it Berlinale, Cannes, and they're amazing in puzzling and networking and getting to know producers and directors. No, you're really good about that, and I want to point that out and talk more on Monday about that. And I know you sometimes come to the ES. I also want to say you have to talk to Ida. She did a great presentation at Sync on Monday, and I think she actually pointed out more the uniqueness about your company that you did today, and I think you should talk to her. And there is Aina.
So yeah, hi everybody. My name is Einar Tryggvason and I'm a film and TV composer from Reykjavik, Iceland. Music has always been a big part of my life, and the same can be said about films, but those two passions didn't really merge until I saw the film Castaway when I was 13. I had always been aware of film music and even listened to a lot of film scores, but This was the first time I was like, truly fascinated with how big a part the score, or in that case, the lack of score, can play in a film. So it was at that point that I turned my focus and my energy towards composing. When I was 18, I scored my first short film. It was my older brother's animated short. And I knew right then and there, like, just this is what I want to do. There was no turn back after that. I went on to study film composing, and in 2015, I finished my master's degree at the Conservatory in Amsterdam. And in the next few years after that, I scored 2 full-feature horror films and a dramatic period miniseries. I actually co-composed that with my father. We actually received an Icelandic Music Award nomination for that last February, but unfortunately, Hildur Guðnadóttir was nominated in the same category twice, so we know how that went. But during my work in the last, 11 years, I think, on almost 30 short films, 3 TV series, 3 full feature films, and numerous commercials and trailers, I've always tried not to pigeonhole myself to any one genre. But with that said, I do find myself really drawn to horror. There's just something about the horror genre that I feel gives you a bit more flexibility and space to try stuff out musically, like abstract soundscapes, extended instrument techniques, and atonality that you might not get away with in a comedy or period drama. Plus, it's just really fun to help make people uncomfortable. But I've been really fortunate with the great director relationships I've managed to forge over the years. I'm a firm believer in open and honest communication with directors and producers. And in my experience, anything else will just make the movie suffer. And then you're just negating the whole point of the process. So I firmly believe that diplomacy I had to learn as a kid, being a middle child of 3 brothers, has really come in handy in my career so far. At this point in life, I've kind of just recently returned from a short hiatus following the birth of my son. But now I'm ready and eager as ever to dive right back in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, to me, you're one of those born and bred film composers, as you said. You learned about it at an early age. Your first film was 18. You know, it's just like you definitely you're in the right, pathway for what you want to do in life. And so I remember, again, looking at all the submissions and that, I was just like, well, this guy just is like, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's just going into it with a clear vision and providing, great music. And I love that you mentioned that you don't consider yourself in one genre, but that you're really focused on horror because you like what however you worded it. It sounded great that you're just like, this is what I'm really interested in. This is what I'm doing. And I think that was great. The music presentation to me was a bit too eclectic. I'm sure you've heard that as you're the last one to go. It would have been great if you would have presented us a great horror reel, really if that's what you're going for, it would have been great to lead with that and give us that. And that way, when you say it in your presentation, we're like, oh yeah, that's perfect. He's the person that we need. But overall, obviously it sounds like you've been successful in finding work. You've been great at collaborating with your family, which is lovely. I think that's a great thing to hear. And and overall, I just think you have a clarity that you know exactly what you're doing, and just keep working at it.
Thank you.
Muted again. Muted.
What I'm saying is, it's not fair that I go after you, because all I can do is kind of repeat the things that you're saying, because it's everything is obvious. You know what you're doing. You're good at it. Obviously, you've been doing it for a while, which is quite amazing. I mean, so you have a great head start to your career, and you can just build from there. As I said to many people, to me, you come off as a good, safe choice, which is going to lead you to certain kinds of things based on the the demo reel that was presented, you know, which again shows a versatility, right? Instead of a singular focus of certain things. If you like horror, as Chandler said, make it a horror thing. Yes, you can do all these other things, but if you want to be doing horror, then do horror, right? And show us that you can do horror, you know? Just connect with more Icelandic. I mean, for all of you guys, the Nordic people, the Swedes, the Norwegians, the Finns, the Icelandic people, you are the hot ticket in this town in many ways, right? So, you know, and people come to you and come to that area, not for the Hollywood sound, they come to the area for the Nordic sound. There is a certain sensibility to it that people here end up having to try to emulate, right? So find it in you and own it, and then promote it and share it with as many people as you can, and connect with filmmakers that, you know, it's a bit of a gamble, you know, who will go beyond the borders of your town and your country and possibly go international, right? At this point, all of you seem to have options laid out ahead of you. What kind of things you can do. Don't choose things for money. Always choose things because the people involved with those things give you a sense that they will go beyond what they're doing at the moment. I hope that makes sense. Congratulations on your son. That's wonderful.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Well, that concludes the pitch, and I hope, I know it's already took longer due to some technical, but also, you know, I think the feedback, you know, always takes a bit longer, but I do think it is helpful for everyone, not only for the person pitching and receiving the feedback, but for everyone, also the people listening. And